And welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. Dr. Lopkin, we had the hearings, congressional hearings, and Barr was there talking about the Mueller investigation. First question to you. I have the feeling, and I don't want your opinion, obviously, that the Mueller investigation, even though Nadler and others are trying to shift the band of brothers there, trying to still stoke it. I think it's kind of dead. What do you think? As a political tool.
As a political tool, it's absolutely dead. The Democrats got nothing out of it. They're going to keep beating on it as long as they can. They've talked about putting together a subpoena to get the full, unedited report. They're doing this for show because they know they can't have it, and no court would uphold the subpoena because a lot of the background information is from grand jury testimony, and that's sealed by law, so they can't open that.
Yeah, I think it's also it is kind of getting into like a dead issue, so to speak. I think the public's had enough, not just partisan people, people on the right, but the average American's kind of had it. Do you agree or not?
Yes,
enough is enough.
I've heard from a number of Democrats that it's like, okay, the investigation went, it didn't find anything, let's move on. It looks like the Democrats are going to repeat the errors that the Republican Party did with the Clinton investigation. The Republicans wouldn't let it go, and they lost big time in the upcoming elections, the elections that followed it. It looks like the Democrats are going to have the same problem.
I don't think, however, it's going to get to the impeachment level. I think that which is hysterical, as we talked about on the show, Pelosi's looking like the voice of reason now because she knows this whole thing is insane.
Yeah,
if they go with impeachment, I mean, whatever, it's crazy.
They don't have the votes for impeachment. The wacko left end of the party is pushing for impeachment, but realistically, there are still some moderates, enough of them, that when combined with the Republicans, they don't have the votes for an impeachment.
They do not have the votes. No, not even close, and especially in states that Trump carried. There's no way they're going to vote for that. And speaking of Trump, a couple things that are interesting. I don't know if you knew this, Dr. Lopkin, that Rasmussen now has him at 53%. And I want your comment on this. Men like David Gergen and others, pretty much a little left of center people, definitely not Trumpites, are basically starting to say that looking like a second term. That there's no one in the field, including Biden, that can lay a glove on Trump, a real glove.
No, it really does look like the Democrats are starting to realize that Trump was not the megalomaniac they painted him out to be. And Trump is actually, if he focuses on his accomplishments, the Democrats can't beat him.
Mm-hmm. But I think let's just say 3-4 months ago, before the Mueller report came, they thought they were going to have a damaged president, low in the polls, and they don't have that. In fact, he's gaining. I mean, he's gaining. He has to be gaining for a reason. I think he's gaining because of Mueller investigation. I think he's also gaining, surprisingly so, from the immigration, the illegal immigration thing, with the Democrats doing nothing, and people see that, yes, this is a crisis. Your comments?
Part of it is certainly the immigration. That speaks to his base, and it's definitely making him stronger with his already existing base. But I think he's also expanding that base because of Mueller, because the investigation came in. And if you remember, before the 2016 election, the Democrats kept saying, well, whoever wins the election, everybody has to accept that. And of course, they didn't. And then they said, well, whatever Mueller says, everybody has to accept that. And it didn't go their way, and they're not accepting it. So more centrist Democrats are realizing the Democrats don't have a platform. They're just trying to take down Trump. And again, Trump's accomplishments have been many. He's actually just recently came out. He signed a bill for protecting the largest amount of ecological land in the United States in 10 years. He's done more for the African American community than has been done in 40 years. He's done more
Yes,
for
no,
Israel.
it's falling on deaf ears. It's becoming. We'll close on this in terms of this part of the podcast. I believe that people who were fed by MSNBC and CNN believed this huge bombshell was coming, and when it didn't come, then all of a sudden it caused them to rethink some things. Not everything, and there's hard left people that will never be satisfied, but I think the middle 20%, even of the Democratic Party, were saying, okay, because his poll numbers are rising. I think it reflects negatively on the Democratic Party.
I would say more than 20%. I think at this point, you're probably up to about 33% of the Democrats who are saying, yes, Trump is going to have a second term.
I would agree with that. Now, in closing, Barr up in front of Capitol Hill, and he's now going to investigate the investigation. And another thing about it, he Barr compared it shows Sessions to be the weakling that he was, the incompetent person he was. And I actually have to agree with Trump's frustration with Sessions. He was not up for the job. Barr is up for the job.
No, Barr has been doing a very good job. Sessions, as soon as he recused himself, it wasn't just about the Mueller investigation. He was sort of weak all around. The only thing he was actually strong on was immigration. And he just wasn't good all around. So I understand why Trump was aggravated.
It was a political favor, and it backfired on Trump. Probably one of his worst decisions. What do you think happens in closing if Barr, not if, he launches this investigation and comes up with basically the deep state and a lot of people in operatives in Obama's administration basically investigating and pulling this essentially quasi-coup attempt on a duly elected president? I think that's going to have repercussions. What do you think?
I think it'll have major repercussions, not just in who people are voting for, but I think it's actually going to have repercussions on how government is run, because once it comes out, all of the dirty backroom deals, people are going to have to take a hard look at who they've been voting for and what they've been supporting.
Agreed. Now, how does CNN and MSNBC cover this?
CNN will cover it just with basic incompetence. MSNBC will be kicking and screaming the whole time, trying to prove there's nothing there, the same way they tried to prove with the Mueller investigation that there was something there. They're sticking with their liberal base, and they're not letting go.
True, because they're basically financially dependent on that. Well, thanks a lot, Dr. Lopkin. Not the most we've had many weeks back to back with so many things going on. This is a little light, but still some interesting topics. Thank you, Dr. Lopkin.
We'll see you next week.
You've been listening to Carnivore Bites, part of the Exvadio Podcast Network. You can catch us every week at exvadio.com/podcasts, on the iHeartRadio app, the Apple Podcasts app, the iTunes Store, Spotify, and wherever you find podcasts. You can also catch us live every Friday at 4 on WESU FM 88.1.